Durag Wisdom here, folks. Y2K 18.10.10. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, we have 27 days left until election day. And there are so many disadvantages that we're going to be dealing with here on the left. We have to vote. We have to vote. But there is so many obstacles that have been placed in our way. The first thing you should know is about doublethink. And I've mentioned this before, it's 1984, very important, and doublethink is one of the tenets of the INGSOC government, of the totalitarian government in 1984. And one of these tenets is doublethink, being able to hold two opposing beliefs, accepting them both when it's convenient, and forgetting that you ever held the other belief. It's a very insidious, evil brainwashing technique, self-brainwashing. We have to be aware that these creeps, these traitor Trumpist creeps, are using, they're using Orwellian techniques, doublethink. It is so obvious to me, and that's because I read 1984. If you're out there, I know I say this all the time until I'm blue in the face, read that novel. I guarantee, once you've read that novel, you're never going to be the same again, especially when it comes to dealing with political totalitarian crap like what's being vomited on us from this administration. Keep that in mind as I continue this broadcast about doublethink. Because the Trumpist double-thinking scum have a new ploy. You know how he said the election was rigged against him? Well, now he really is trying to make us all believe the election is gonna be, this midterm election is gonna be rigged against him, because he is trying to claim that the Chinese are hacking our election for 2018 to favor anyone that's against him, this traitor Trump. And it's obvious to me what this creep is trying to do. He's trying to revise history. That's part of the INGSOC philosophy. And he wants to use doublethink so that between the two of them, we'll forget that this was the creep that hacked our election. This was the creep, Trump, who, along with Putin, his campaign, defiled our election. And now with 2018 midterms just 27 days out, he's making a tale, creating propaganda that they're going to say over and over again. Remember, you tell a lie often enough, it's going to become the truth. Well, one of the things he's doing is he's trying to make us all think that now he's the victim and his campaign's the victim, and the Democrats are going to be benefiting from the Chinese invading our elections. These people on the right know what they're doing, my friends. They know what they're doing, and they've been working on it monomaniacally for years and years, and they have succeeded. They now own, right now, at least temporarily, all three branches of our federal government, and we can only hope that we get into one half of the legislature in the House, because we're going to need to take over that entire legislature to really make a check on these fascist, totalitarian, religious extremists, hypocritic creeps. But we're not going out and voting, a lot of us. We're getting pissed off that they're running people that we don't like on the left side. Fundamentally, the Democratic Party has become more middle to almost creeping up on the right, and these corporatists that have invaded the Democratic Party are helping to undermine it. Once the Democratic Party has weaned itself from the corporatists, they'll be able to function as truly the party of the people. But believe it or not, at one time, the Republican Party was the party of the people. Remember Lincoln? anti-slavery. This is why I don't want to see the elimination of the Republican Party, because I don't want to see a one-party totalitarian system. I'm on the left. I'm liberal. But people have a right to make a decision between one or the other philosophy. But we have a problem we hear on the left in this election day. We have to watch out for this, folks. This is what we have to be wary of. 100% of their side will be out voting for the Trump candidates this midterms and for Trump. That's about 60 to 65 million people, if my calculation is like 40%, 45%. That's a serious number. We may not like what the candidates on our side are giving to us at this point, but vote for them. Vote for all of them. Vote for every Democrat you possibly can imagine. If you could dig one up from the ground and run them for office, vote for them. We have to work on the Democratic Party. Make it ours. Or we could take over the Republican Party and make that ours. These parties have shifted back and forth over the history of our country. But we have to work with the party now, which happens to be the Democrats, to make sure that we have a check on the other branches of our government. One of our weaknesses is the fact that we do not vote in great tsunami numbers like they do on the fanatic extremist right. They have other advantages too, ladies and gentlemen and friends. They have gerrymandering, voter suppression, and Citizens United. Corporations are people too, yeah, right. And the Electoral College is against us, and more on that momentarily. We have to also remember we have a disadvantage because most of the local governments in our nation, the state governments, the city governments perhaps, are controlled to the most part by Trumpist enemies. More so, I think, with the state governments. This is why we must gain power from the local to the highest levels of our government, as these monomaniacal, extremist, religious, traitor, fascist Trumpists have done. Bless the media, bless them, but they're a disadvantage to us as well, because they're making us believe that there's going to be a blue tsunami. Here comes the blue tsunami. Here comes the blue tsunami. Oh, give me the blue tsunami. Ah, the blue tsunami's coming. Don't believe it for a minute, folks. Because that is going to keep us at home. We have enough trouble on our side getting to the polls. That kind of stuff is going to keep us at home. The polls do not matter. It's entertainment. It's suspense. They're keeping us in the suspense. I'm living in a movie now. A political thriller. A black comedy. End of the world madness. And we can't listen to these polls. We have to get out ourselves with our feet, with our legs, with the blood, with our brains, with our hands, and vote. Because I guarantee the election must be decisive. It must be bloody. Their side must be laying on the ground in utter, humiliating defeat. The Electoral College is one of the worst enemies of our democratic republic, and it's a great disadvantage to us. As long as that foul institution exists, our side must vote at least 10, 20 times above what is normal in order to guarantee that we win. Because if the election is too close, the Electoral College will inevitably and invariably hand it over to our enemies. And make no mistakes, these Trumpist creeps are our enemies. Remember, another disadvantage is voting day is a work day. Many on the liberal side will miss voting precisely because the polls they usually attend, and most of us in the same situation, are nowhere near the workplace. I believe the right will all take off from work that day, boycott it if you will, to take full advantage. And we should do the same. If society doesn't want to make Election Day a national holiday, and they claim this is a free society, take off from work Election Day. Boycott work Election Day. F them and stand for your rights. Now, another disadvantage we have is that the traitor Trumpists know how to use Orwellian techniques. We now are being branded violent mobs. The violent mobs of liberals. This is doublethink, my friends. Trump has always advocated violence at his rallies. I have not forgotten. His followers in the alt-right celebrate the murder of Heather Heyer in Charlottesville. And they are roaring with joy and laughter over the appointment of a rapist to our Supreme Court. After all, according to them, the Kavanaugh creep was the victim, not the victims themselves. Trump plans a bloody Friday night type massacre after the election. He will welcome dictators to our nation. They will sit side by side enjoying Traitor Trump's military parade. More children will be confined to concentration internment camps. Our planet will become more poisonous. This entire nation will become as flint, which wasn't itself poisoned by Republicans, by, to me, teabagger Trumpists. The parade of scum undermining our country, the Mnuchins, the Kellys, the Boltons, the Kellyanne Conways, the Sarah Huckabee, and Trump will eventually, with the help of his boss Putin, his boss who's trying to be all of our boss too, take over our entire country too, Trump will literally then get away with shooting people anywhere he wants in our nation. But he's a coward. He won't walk up to someone and shoot them. He'll get somebody else to do it. And believe me, he will. And this will happen if the majority of us don't wake up to shake the yoke of the minority of criminals who are running our nation off our backs. They call the liberals a dangerous mob, while the right-wing traitors themselves are mobsters, arch criminals, who want nothing more than to join Putin's oligarch express. Again, this is their use of doublethink. The tragedy of 9/11 and the subsequent wars, the rise of other terrorist cells, have spawned the kind of mentality in our country, the kind of destructive mentality that will destroy us. Our tribal instincts are now at the height, not heard of since the Civil War and since during the McCarthy era. Naked apes like Traitor Trump are symptoms of a disease that will keep us from evolving into a more refined being. With the very planet we live on, which is on the brink of worldwide climate catastrophe, isn't it about time that we take a different path instead of the one to a lonely grave?